Hey, what's going on, guys and girls? Pat here, back with another Epic 7 video, and this one's really special. It is to commemorate my first year anniversary here on YouTube, making content for Epic 7. A year ago to the day, we made our first video, which was building better characters with math. That video would be very indicative about what this channel is all about, and it is essentially to help you guys who are watching the video easily and effectively gear their characters so that they can start having fun with the game and accomplishing their goals instead of just having those characters sit on your bench. So yeah, since we started doing how to play videos and analysis videos, we've done something like near 30 how to plays and a dozen or so or more analysis videos. You know, the most recent of which was Lionheart Sirmia. The next how to play will probably end up being Mediator Coer. And since the focus of my channel is largely just analysis and guides, I don't usually get to answer other things that you guys may want to ask me because I'm not really a streamer. I would like to be a streamer. I've got to find more time and work up some more courage to get to that point, honestly. But yeah, I figured again this would be just something that's really fun for everybody. So we're going to jump into the questions in a second. And stay tuned for the end of the video because I do have a giveaway as a thank you for all of the support that you guys have given me over the last year. So let's get into it now. So the first question comes from Lachlan, who asks, what made you interested in E7? My friend Domain is actually the reason why I play Epic 7. He has been a friend of mine for over 10 years. We've played a lot of games together off and on, and he is always on the prowl for what he thinks will be the next great game. And around the time when E7 was about to come to Korea, he found it and was like, this game's amazing. And he told me and all my friends that we should really consider playing it. And at the time, none of us were really interested because we were all super absorbed in Fate Grand Order as well as Fire Emblem Heroes. We just didn't really see a reason for us to pick up another gacha game. And then I watched the trailer and I was like, okay, it looks pretty good. And he's like, yeah, the waifus are really good in this game also. And so he sent me to the homepage and I saw the picture of Corinne. And I saw her name was Corinne, and I was like, oh, this waifu's really cute, and she looks exactly like my favorite character from Puzzle and Dragons, which was the incarnation of Seiryu, Karin. And they basically look exactly the same for the most part. Like, you know, there's like minor differences here or there. Like Karin, for example, obviously has the dragon horns, but I was like, oh, it's, you know, cute waifu with like long hair and everything. And I was like, oh, I see the similarities. They've got the same name. Maybe you might be onto something. Maybe this game might appeal to me. And I kind of forgot about it for several months until right before the global release when Korea got Luna. And then he sent me the trailer for Luna and he was like, look, I'm telling you guys, the waifus. And we had a good laugh at Luna's character design because up until this point, the most ridiculous looking woman we'd ever seen in a gacha game was Minamoto no Raiko from Fate Grand Order. So it was kind of like she was the queen of the throne of ridiculous looking gacha waifus with ridiculous proportions. And then we saw Luna and it was like, okay, you know what? Like, Luna is as ridiculous. Maybe we should give this game a shot. And then her being a dragon was like the final nail in the coffin. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to binge as much information as I can find on this game in the next 2 weeks. And this first day it comes out, I'm going to download it and we're going to play it. And then it was like 7 p.m. on the night of Global's release when it finally dropped. Rerolled, got Destina, and that's it. Just set off on my journey, and it's been crazy ever since. The second question comes from Louis Von Iger. Apologies if I mispronounce your names, by the way, guys and girls. And the question is, what are my top 3 waifus and husbandos? And I'm going to cheat because I'm going to give you 5 for waifus because there's no way in hell I'm narrowing it down to just 3. And then I'll give you my 3 husbandos as well. So obviously, as we learned in the first question, I really like Corinne and I really like Luna because without those 2 girls I would not be here. I would not be making video content. So they have a like eternal spot in my top 5, so to speak, because they're the waifus I started the game with. They got me here, and I played pretty much religiously forever. Like I still play both of them to this day. After that would be, of course, the girl that is on your screen now. That would be Sirmia. Sirmia is she feels very 90s anime girl. She reminds me a lot of Lena Inverse from Slayers, especially in the Lionheart Sirmia design. She's just super overpowered, super over the top, super hilarious. Always gets herself into trouble with like money or all these other things, and she just feels like she walked right out of a '90s anime. And then I really like Sword Girls, and she has the red hair, so I'm just like, all right, that like checks pretty much almost every box that I could possibly have on a character. So when she was shown and I saw that she was like super overpowered in lore and a hardcore gambler and gets herself into like fits of rage over drinking or has money issues or things like that, or she's trying to swindle people, I was like, okay, I can sign up with this girl. This girl is amazing. So that's why I really, really like her. And then obviously Celine comes next because she's basically the 5-star counterpart of Corinne. She's like the middle point between Corinne and Cermia, so of course she is going to be on that list as well. Sword Girl, super cool, comic relief character, but at the end of the day is a total badass. I think she has the coolest idle stance in the entire game. And then finally, there is Vivian to round out my top 5, and that is because Vivian, at least her lore, has a lot of very obvious parallels to my favorite video game character of all time, which is Tifa Lockhart. They are both, the backstory is essentially very similar to Cloud and Tifa's. That'll kind of lead us into the husbando section. Is Coeric is the first husbando, because Coeric is essentially somebody who was weak and couldn't make a difference in his hometown, so he made a promise to his childhood friend, which in this case would be Vivian, or in Cloud's case Tifa, and then he went off to fight in a war, only to be experimented on and become a super soldier, and then eventually tried to use that power to come back and fill that promise. Like, the dynamic of Coeric and Vivian is very similar to the dynamic of Cloud and Tifa in Final Fantasy VII, which is my favorite game. So that's why I really, really like both of those characters. Obviously, Coeric ended up getting the Raw deal, so there's that. And obviously, Vivian as well got the Raw deal. It's kind of like the bad end. But I still like them both a lot because I do think that they are some of the better written characters in Epic 7. A lot of characters in Epic 7 that aren't the comic relief characters are pretty terribly written for the most part. So Vivian and Coeric have just a very strong narrative, and then we had the prince's side story that helped expand upon that and made them even more likable characters. So that's why I like Vivian and Coeric. For other husbandos, Crow, total Bamf character, is just so up his own ass that it's amazing. He's kind of like the male version of Cermia. He just thinks he's like God and just kind of waltzes in there and does whatever he wants. And when somebody points out how ridiculous it is, he's like, no need. He just laughs it off. So yeah, he's definitely up there. He just looks super cool, acts super tough, and is super amazing generally always in the story. And I don't really ever feel bad about playing either version of Crow in PvP either. And then finally is Charles. And that is because of two things. One, he's basically Old Man Cloud Strife when you think about it. His sword is very similar to Cloud's sword in Advent Children in terms of design and aesthetic. I think Crispin Freeman's performance in the English dub is just nuts. That guy is just primo, man. He is so good at everything that he does. I've been listening to his stuff since I was a kid, from Ghost in the Shell, and when he was Charles, I was like, oh yeah, we're playing Charles, man. He's super, super awesome. The next question comes from Dreamsin, which is, do you think Epic 7 will ever overcome its dark period and the devs will ever be able to appease Koreans as well as the global audience? So, quick fact for those of you who do not know, I have twice now done consulting work for competitive card games, collectible card games, trading card games. I do essentially advice, testing, sometimes design for cards in order to try to help establish a balanced or healthy game. And the one thing that every single company I have worked for has said so far is that they are afraid of doing X because they are afraid it will make people mad. You will never, ever be able to make everyone happy under any circumstances. So it is simply better to do what you personally think, because it is your game, is best for your game. In the case of card games, I always strongly try to push for block or rotation, but depending on the game, that might not necessarily be true. I am usually a bigger advocate of nerfing things than buffing things, but there is a school of thought that buffing could end up being better if it is done correctly. So far, they have managed to right the ship. Smilegate and Super Creative have managed to right the ship every single time, in my opinion, and I have been generally happy with the state of the game for most of its lifetime. Obviously, there are times where I was not super happy, but I still was able to hold on and play the game because at the end of the day, I still do like the game. The big thing that I might not like is the state of PvP. And I do think generally they are trying. They are really trying to find a solution that will appease as many people as possible. If I were them, I would just rip the band-aid off and just start with the nerfs, but that's just me. Again, I have guildmates who think that that is not the way to go, and that they should just do larger buffs, like a patch with like maybe like 20 or 30 minor buffs, like on the way that we did with DN in the last balance patch, and see how it goes, or make more frequent balance adjustments, like when I was playing a League of Legends, like years upon years ago, there was like a balance patch felt like every 2 weeks. So either they'll come to a point where they will either decide to reverse their decision on nerfs, or they will make balance adjustments more frequently, or they will go ahead and release this gear that they're talking about, or they will change the zodiac sign like they said they would do. So they're going to do something, right? There's nothing so far that has made me lose a ton of confidence in them. Like, I currently do not like the state of PvP, and I wish it was drastically different. But most of the changes that they've made and leaps that they've made over the last couple of years have always led me to believe that they will find a spot where I personally will probably be happy with it, and I think most people will be happy with it. You will never have a spot where 100% of people are going to be happy with the state of the game. So our next question comes from MLGRRD, who asks, what is the worst game I've ever played? Final Fantasy 14, and it's not close. I played Final Fantasy 11 for 6 years as a kid, and I really liked that game because it was very challenging and things like that. When 14 was announced, it made sense that, it's going to be the spiritual successor. I should probably pick it up. That was a mistake. The game looked absolutely gorgeous, but it had a terrible UI, awful load screens. The gearing and combat system didn't really make a whole heck of a lot of sense, and there wasn't really anything to do. And the stuff there was to do, you needed a large group of people, which didn't really pan out because the game was received absolutely terribly. So like no one really bought it. So servers were basically just barren for the most part. So yeah, not a good game. Absolutely terrible game at launch. But I stuck with it in hopes that it might be good one day. And then the entire dev team got fired. And that's when I knew, oh, this game is terrible. And then I quit. Only to eventually come back several years later when it was rebranded as Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn, which is now one of the best MMORPGs of all time. I currently do not play the game, but I did play at the start and was trying very hard to be progressive and try to beat Twin Tanya and things like that when they first came out. Next up, Hydro asks the question that is probably going to take forever for me to answer, and that is, what are my favorite anime? That's a doozy. I have watched an absolutely staggering amount of anime in my lifetime. My dad got me started when I was just a little kid with a bunch of anime that I probably should not have been watching as a kid, if I'm being honest with you. I started with things like Akira and Galgo 13. So those are ones that like kind of got me into the medium and made me realize, hey, cartoons aren't just Disney cartoons. And then like obviously there was Dragon Ball Z and things like that. There are a lot, like I said, though, in general. Recently, my recent fascination has been with Attack on Titan. I really think that is a very well-written series for the most part. It started off not super great, and I bashed it for years only to pick it up recently and go like, man, they really did a 180 on this series, and it got a lot better. I am a big fan of things that have really interesting writing or very serious subject matter. I like things like Neon Genesis Evangelion. I really liked Violet Evergarden, which was really slept on, I feel like, from a couple of years ago. I don't really hear too many people talk about it. Like, it's reasonably popular, but I don't think a lot of people have really sat down and watched it and kind of like internalized it. Like, the one episode about what it means to lose a parent is like literally soul crushing, and it's something that I think about often. So that one is definitely up there. I also like things like The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, because that was kind of the series that got me into Kyoto Animation, which is my favorite animation studio. So I'm a big fan of Haruhi and her antics as well. Endless 8 kind of tanked that series, but I'm hoping that it'll get a reboot or it'll get resumed at some point because I really do like the SOS Brigade. And then finally, the one that I think stands above all is a series that was well loved many years back, but I think nowadays is completely forgotten. In fact, when I told some of the Japanese consultants at one of the card games that I was working on, they were so blown away because none of them had knew what it was. My favorite series of all time is actually Tenchi Muyo, believe it or not. And that is for one very specific reason, and that is, of course, Ryoko. Ryoko is one of the most interesting anime characters I've ever seen in my life. This is like my first anime waifu. If you're in my Discord, in fact, the 3 Gems for Power title along with my avatar is a direct reference to Ryoko Hakubi from Tenchi Muyo. That character is way too good for that series, and honestly, I really think that if she had her own spin-off or was like in another anime, it would just be absolutely great. Like it being tied to, or I should say her being tied to a harem genre is, yeah, it's rough. Like I know Tenchi Muyo is like the series that kind of kicked off the harem genre, but most harems are in general trash. But Tenchi has some very interesting characters and is for the most part really funny. And I really just like how adorkable Ryoko is as a person. She's like super powerful, one of the most powerful beings in the entire universe, could probably at full power like body Goku from Dragon Ball if she wanted to, but at the end of the day, she's lazy, she's an alcoholic, she likes like she's basically Surmia when you think about it. At the end of the day, she's just like she's a practical joker, and then she just is completely flubs any attempt at being like honest with herself and her emotions. Like she's just a complete wreck of a person. She feels like a real person despite the fact that, again, she can literally level planets. So yeah, that's my favorite anime, and it's largely because of Ryoko. So the last question comes from just a viewer, which is, how you doing? And the answer is much better thanks to all of you guys. A year ago, before I made my very first Epic 7 video, I was incredibly depressed as well as extremely nervous about making that video because I didn't think that people would want to watch the kind of videos that I make. I make very, super in-depth guides and walkthroughs for things like deck profiles in the past. And that's what my style is. I'm basically a teacher at the end of the day, whereas I'm coming into essentially a space, a field where the dominant content creators are people that just show you a number in 3 seconds and then it's just memes and Guild War attacks. So I just didn't think that there would be any place for me in Epic 7. And seeing the responses that I've gotten from all of you has kind of dispelled that myth, and it really warms my heart to see some of the responses that I get and to talk to some of you guys in the Discord channel and see that like the things that like the guides help, that you're able to play the things you want, that you're finally able to clear and do these different milestones. So that always brings a smile to my face whenever I check my phone and I see it. And I hope to keep doing it for as long as I can, as long as you guys will have me, as long as I am still playing Epic 7, I intend to do that. And so since you guys have given me so much in the past year, I decided I would do a giveaway with this video. And just like with the How to Play Edda video, it will be a signed print. This one will be for Ilanav. This is Christina V's signature, her English, dub voice. So I am giving away a signed print by Christina V, who is a very famous voiceover artist if you do not know. So I'll be giving this away to one lucky fan to win, or at least I should say have a chance to win the Ilanav print. You need to simply be subscribed to my channel, join my Discord, and then post your YouTube name in the giveaway channel. On April 26th, I will randomly select one person in that channel, and there will be mods to verify that this is a randomized process. And then I will DM that person on Discord, and they will have between 24 to 48 hours to claim the prize. And if they don't, then we'll just select another name, and we will keep going until eventually the print finds a home. So yeah. Again, this is my thank you guys for everything over the past year. Hopefully you've enjoyed the content, and hopefully you will continue to look forward to the other content that I have planned here for the channel in the future. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye.